Alright, we're starting this present in 3, 2, 1, present. Alright. So this is gender and race in video games. Stereotypical and crude portrayals of people are a persuasive and measurable issue in the field of gaming just as it is anywhere else. This is concerning as young people are impressionable and we are affected by the media we frequently consume. Minority representation and race. Stereotypes are everywhere. According to Fossil, 85% of game characters are white, despite studies reporting that African Americans and Hispanics play and buy games more often than white players. It's very ironic, and consider how Asians are frequently portrayed. What characters do you remember from the games you've played? Now, I think this is a great example, but at the same time, it can be twisted for any race. But I'm going to continue with the Asians because I think it's such a great one. Frequently, Asians are portrayed as either criminals, enemies, or martial art masters. It's Dickerman. We really looked into this, and we don't think they exactly have to have be martial arts masters, something like that. But they always have to have some sort of a cultural tie-in, whether or not it's a history or a skill like martial arts or something. But basically, you're never going to see Asian American. Gender issues. Women, like minorities, are often portrayed along degrading stereotypes. The usual stereotypes you see are people that need saving. That's your typical damsel in distress. Sexualized characters. Originally, video games were aimed at men, so they sexualized women in games to get their attention. Supporting characters, because very little do you ever see a lead role as a woman. And when you do, they're usually portrayed as a sexualized killing machine, like in the game Wet. These types cover most portrayals of female characters in games. Gittleson. 40% of game players are women, with female players over the age of 18 representing a greater portion of the game-playing population than boys are 17 or younger. Here's an example from Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain. This character right here, who is quiet, is a lead assassin. But in this game, she just flaunts around wearing a bikini top and ripped leggings, I think that is. Later, they have her dancing around in the rain. I'm not going to continue with this because you guys get the idea. Who are the protagonists? Now, the main protagonist here is, in the game, is Snake, which is the older gentleman in the eye patch. So right there, she's not even the lead character. She's just a support character. Now, despite being an elite assassin, what is Quiet reduced to? Basically, she's just reduced to a sexualized character who's just there to really, goggle at. I mean, when you really think about an elite assassin, you don't think about them flaunting around in a bikini. It just doesn't make sense, and she's only there to be a sexualized character. Isn't there some sort of governing body that can do something about this? Yes and no. The Entertainment Software Rating Board was formed to regulate harmful images for games. But, unfortunately, because of all the loopholes people have found, and there's very little people can do about it now. With new digital distribution formats like Steam, a game does not necessarily have to be rated to be sold. Parents ignore that rating frequently regardless. And sexualized or crude portrayals of women or minorities aren't necessarily going to get the game a harsh rating. You can see Soul Calibur 4, a game with a T rating. I read somewhere that 30% of parents look at the ratings when they buy games for kids. Only 30%. So that means 70% of games go out there without any sort of regard for whether or not it's too inappropriate. Ethical concerns. um, I think they're really obvious, and that's why it's titled Obvious Ethical Concerns. But just as is ethically problematic to use stereotypes in any mediums, it is very problematic here as well. People can be influenced by the media they consume, and games are consumed in massive quantities. Video games are a $1 billion industry. So no matter what, it's going to influence people. Whether directly or indirectly, it can essentially celebrate negative and harmful views on people. This goes back to it being influential on people who are younger, my age and below. Especially the younger you get, because the younger you get, the more, the more you are impressionable. Regardless of whether things are improving or worsening in regards to the issue, there is still clearly work to be done. Games demonstrably have major issues with portraying anyone that isn't a buff white male. That is the typical stereotype for video games and for men. Of course, we've gotten better over the years. You see games now where we have lead female characters or lead black characters, but still, it's not at a point where things should be. We have gotten pretty far with other mediums such as television and movies, but video games still lack a little bit more, and there's a lot of work to be done. Here we have our works cited. If you need to take a closer look at it, you can either screenshot it or pause it. Thank you.